So then another question that I have for you, Mr. Wilson, is I know another part of business is having employees, because sooner or later your business hopefully will grow up to a point where you can't manage it like on your own, like you need extra help in order to keep your business going. So my question to you is, how do we go about training our new employees?
Very good. Very good. That question takes me back several years ago. I started a company about maybe about 15, maybe 17, 18 years ago. I started a company, and it was a mortgage company back then. And I was a top agent at my previous company, which was a Fortune 500 company. But I felt that I wanted to start mine, and I started the company then. And when we started to work, my boss then, like about 20, maybe 20 something years ago, he had warned me. He said, "Don't go and start your business," because, and he was he liked me so much because I was a top employee. But one of the things he said was, "Do not go and start your own business, because what if you start your business, your employees are you're not going to get the right employees. Number one, employees are going to quit on you. Your machinery is not good." Everything he told me. And this was a Caucasian guy. If it was an African guy, he said, "Oh, maybe he has some voodoo." Guess what? When I started my business, everything the guy said, my machinery, my employee quitting on me, or they're not coming to work where they're supposed to be, everything happened. But it made me stronger. You know why? Because I knew that he had already told me that this was going to happen if I started. And and we were fortunate enough. We had about anywhere from 20 to 37 employees at that time, and we had about 2 or 3 branches. So we expanded pretty rapidly, and we did pretty well back then. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, employees will come and go, and you will start to attract the people that you need for your business. It may take you time, but people that share your vision, they'll start to come to you. And then one of the things that I found out when we were doing our company was training was a big deal, because I've realized that I needed to put all the employees in the same line with the vision of where I wanted the company to be. And so we had specific training of objectives every week. We had a training objective, maybe like 1 hour. We set that 1 hour apart, and everybody was required to attend the training. And we had people from outside that would come and give us some tips, and we had speakers. And what I found out is we kind of like grew. The company grew, and even the people that come like, "Oh wow, you guys are pretty good." Everybody had the same vision. So it's something that you have to go out of your way to do. Another thing that I wanted to say, that I'm sure the next speaker will talk about more, the importance of setting up your books. It's critical if you want to become a business that will be sustainable, and you want to be you want to grow a business. The way to grow it is to make sure that your paperwork is intact, your financing, your accounting. I learned this the hard way. I didn't know anything. I didn't know I needed an accountant. But when I started, and I'm like, oh my God, I spent more time finding out how much did I spend on this, who did I give it to. Then suddenly I realized that, hey, you need an accountant. So I have to employ an accountant and a CPA at that time. But I didn't realize that. So one of the things that I found out along the way is, you know what, the importance of accounting, the importance of proper bookkeeping in business setup.
Thank you for that answer. I think for the sake of time, I'm going to cut it short for now, and any sort of questions we have, we'll get to it later in the Q&A section. But I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to explain to us how to start our business successfully, because I know it took a lot out of your time today, but we really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience does as well.
Thank you.
So next up, the last segment that we had before Q&A was all about the proper documentation that you need in order to run a business successfully. And the reason we decided to have that segment today is because even if you know what product they're going to sell, and at the same time you follow all of Mr. Wilson's steps, if you don't have the proper documentation for your business, you can fall into different issues like taxation issues, IRS issues. If you have employees, you can run into employee lawsuits, and you could even run bankrupt, which can pretty much drive your business down to the ground before it's even begun to thrive. So with us today, we have who happens to be an accountant, a financial consultant, and also my uncle. So Mr. Camille, an important question that I figured I'd start off with today is, what kind of documents do we need in order to run a successful business?
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. First of all, let me briefly touch on the need for anybody wanting to transit from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur. One of the most important things you need to do, first of all, is to realize the fact that the moment you are starting a business, you as a person, you are viewed by the law as different from the business you are running. And that's the reason why you need to, first of all, ensure you register your business. Now, you will need to discuss, to determine the kind of business you want to go into. It will depend on a lot of things. Where you are coming from, the nature of your business, the nature of your market, and so on and so forth. So I always encourage people to consult with either their accountant or with their lawyers. You may first of all want to start as a sole proprietorship, in which case you are still running the business as yourself, your name, but you are running as a business, not in your personal name, like when you are an employee. You may want to think of going into partnership if you require a couple, two or more people coming together with different or what I would say skills that rub on each other. You may want to form a partnership. Maybe somebody has background in finance, somebody has background in engineering, and you want to go into consulting that straddle between the two. Or you may choose to do an incorporation. Incorporation could either be private incorporation, stock incorporation, or ordinary corporation. It all depends. It may have to do with a public limited liability company, or it may just be a regular NGO. So you need to first of all determine the nature of your business and what you want to do, and ensure that you register the business. That is going to help you a lot, because expenses and other things you can claim as a business that you cannot claim as individuals are there. But when you get to talk to your lawyer or your accountant, they will explain a lot of these things for you. So I will first of all encourage people to register the business and determine the kind of business they need to register. Once that is done, the next thing will be for you to get an EIN number. It's called an EIN, which is Employer's Identification Number. It's like your own social security number. But in this case, it's a number that is assigned by IRS for your business. And guess what? The moment you have an EIN number and you start doing your business and you are running everything under that EIN number, you are also building the credit for the business, just like you are building the credit for yourself. And those are clear advantages, because things you are entitled to from the government, even the amount of credit you can get from credit providers, they are different and they are huge when you go in as a business, when they can see your track records, that you have been disciplined, you have been financially disciplined, you have been doing everything the way it should be done. That's number two. Number three, always make sure you open an account for your business. The first problem that anybody can have is to commingle your personal account with that of the business account, especially when you believe that I will remember, oh, okay, you are just mingling everything together. When it's time for you to claim your expenses or to prepare your account where you will show your revenue and your expenses so that you can determine the profit you are making, then how much is due to the government. If you are unable to distinguish this, you will run into problems. So it's always advisable. Every expense that has to do with the business, make sure they pass through the business account. Don't mix them with your personal account. And at the end of the day, you will find out that, okay, man, you are able to get this. And when you are able to do this, you will be able to pay the taxes that are appropriate and also be able to get whatever you need to get from the government. One thing I always tell my clients is this: don't ever get into trouble with IRS. That is one trouble you want to avoid by all means. And the way to avoid it is what? Register your business, have a business account, and make sure that your business expenses and revenue are kept separate from your personal expenses and revenue. And always make sure you pay yourself a salary. It goes a long way. Pay yourself a salary. That is when you even know that, am I even doing well in the business? Is the business making profit, or is just a going concern that is just accruing paper profit, but in the rest of the world making losses? But by the time you sit down with your accountant, all these things, which we may not be able to cover today, they will become more clearer. And you will now say, okay, you know what? This is the right way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Camille, for that answer. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the audience does as well. So another question I had regarding proper documentation is, I know for a lot of things you need multiple copies to give to multiple places in terms of the documentation. So do you store these documents in certain places, like registration, for example, or do you make multiple copies? Tell me all about that.
Well, basically, with technology now, everything becomes so easy. Once you have it in your file and you have it also stored up electronically so that wherever you are, if it's required by anybody, you can always go to your iCloud or wherever it is, put it up and make use of it. It makes life very, very easy. Let's even assume that you forgot the documentation, you don't even have it with you. You can always log on to rs.gov and pull your record, print it, scan it or whatever, and do whatever you need to do. Technology has made life so easy in terms of where you file your documents, where you keep them. And also I need to mention to you, there are even some nice accounting software that make life easy for any businessman. Once your accountant set it up for you, they will just give you access into it, wherein you can even be the one that will be putting in your expenses there as you are incurring them. Your accountant will only come in once in a while to just do what? Coordinate it, pass the necessary journal to reclassify the expenses as the case may be, ensuring that they are under proper heading and so on and so forth. And pim, everything is sorted out at the click of a button. Technology has really made life so easy that a good accountant will be able to make a semi-accountant from you as a business owner. By the time they give you guidance on what to do, how to do them, what not to do. And when you are in doubt, you ask them questions. I always tell people, don't say because you don't want to pay a professional an X amount of dollars and you run into a difficulty that will take 10 times or 20 times that amount of dollars to resolve. Because when you have problem with IRS, it is almost impossible for you to get out of it without getting a lawyer or an accountant to assist you, because you don't want to mess up anything. And the problem with IRS is that it's not only about financial penalty. One can also go to jail, especially in the United States. So one needs to be extremely careful to avoid anything, any problem that has to do with IRS or any other regulatory bodies or government agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Camille, for that answer. And for the sake of time, I just had one more question for you before we go into Q&A. And that question's regarding something you said before about making a separate account for your business and one for your personal self. So I'm just wondering how exactly you would go about making a personal business account. Like, is there anything different between that and your personal account in terms of how the bank handles it or in terms of interest rates that you pay on that account?
Oh, definitely there are. Number one, if you're opening a business account, the bank will require for your EIN number, because the account will be opened under your EIN number. In which case, if you apply for credit or they need to increase
All right, thank you, Mr. Camille, for that informative answer. And in general, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to explain to us today about the proper documentation that we need for a business. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so next up we have the Q&A section. So basically how this is going to run is, if the audience has any sort of questions that they would like to ask, they can type the questions in the chat. I'll basically voice it out and read their questions, and we'll give the question to whoever's best fit to answer. So if it's a question about documentation, for example, Mr. Camille be more than happy to answer the question, and so on and so forth. If we don't get to your question today, or if you think of a question later after the session is over, you can always email us at info.viewslounge.com, and we'll be happy to allocate those questions to our speakers and get back to you for response. But for now, if you have any questions, you can just type them up in the chat and we'll go from there.
Okay, I think I have a question here. Somebody is asking, what are the red flags in filing taxes as a business owner? That is a very good question. I've had clients who file their taxes by themselves, and they will make a lot of some funny and unreasonable claims when they are filing their taxes, like mileages that can never be substantiated, like expenses they said they will claim they are incurring because they are running their own business on their own. That's on their Schedule C. It's called Schedule C, wherein you state all your expenses, all in the name of making sure that what they are claiming as their expenses is more than their income, so that they are not paying no taxes. Well, you can escape it maybe the first year, perhaps, because IRS cannot go over millions of filings, but they do what is called random picks. But one thing I always tell business people is this: avoid to be audited by IRS. The moment you are audited in 1 year, you're already in their database that you should be audited every year. So you want to be sure that whatever you are claiming, make sure they are reasonable things that you can claim. Even if you don't want to use an accountant or you don't want to use a lawyer, always go to IRS. There are resources there where you can see what are reasonable claims, what are the basis, what are the criteria that must be met. If you want to do all those things by yourself, fine. But it's always good to let professionals do it for you, because this is what they do on a regular basis. Whatever somebody will do for you at a cheap cost, why going through the hazards of doing it by yourself when you are going to even create more problem for yourself down the line? But it's all about individual. But there are a lot of red flags in filing taxes. Claiming unreasonable expenses is one of them. Under declaring your revenue is another one. And don't ever think the IRS will not know what your revenues are. For everybody who pay you, or for every organization that pay you money, they must record it as what? As payment out to you. So the IRS have a very complex system that will match the two together, the payer and the payee. The minute something is wrong, they will come after the payee that, hey, ABC company said they pay you so much amount of dollars for the services you render to them or for consulting. We don't have this declared in your filing. And that is where the EIN number that the employer will use and the social security number that an individual will use, or if it is from employer to employer, where they will raise 1099. If you're an entrepreneur, for example, it's 1099 that those who are paying you will send to you that, okay, we pay you so much at the end of this year, and as such, you are under obligation to declare this to the IRS as your own revenue. Also, everybody you pay to, you must give them 1099, showing that you pay them so much. Pitfall to avoid when it comes to filing taxes: never make false claims. It will always come back to haunt you. Never understate anything that you know that you cannot justify. Your accountant may be able to do some financial engineering for you, wherein, you see, because you can avoid taxes, but you cannot evade. Tax avoidance is legal, wherein you use the law to take advantage, just like Donald Trump has been doing over the year. I'm sorry to use this example, but now if you look at it now, all those avoidances he was doing have now been realized to become an evasion because they're actually criminal. He will overstate his asset when you want to borrow from the banks, but will understate the asset, the same asset, when you want to do what? To pay taxes, because he has two separate records. That is why the guy is in trouble now. And I can tell you, once he's out of the office, they will go after him. I'm sorry to use that example, but that is just the way it is. Your accountant or your lawyer will be able to advise you on how you can legally avoid paying excess taxes, but will never support you to go ahead and evade taxes, because evading taxes is criminal and can only hand somebody not only headache, but jail terms. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Camille. Hopefully the audience member that asked that question understood your answer. And again, if you need any sort of extra clarification, you can always shoot us an email and we'll be more than happy to send you a response.
Okay.
So another question that I see in the chat is, how do you deal with competing colleagues doing the same type of your business? I feel like this is a question suited for any one of the entrepreneurs, if you'd like to share your thoughts on it.
Mr. France or Dr. Tsunoga?
What's the question?
So the question is, how do you deal with competing colleagues doing the same type of your business?
Okay, I'm going to talk generally on that, which should be very easy to understand. First of all, whatever service you're offering or whatever product that you're offering, one must be of the highest standard and of the highest quality. And two, whatever service or product that you're offering, to have an edge in the competition, right, you must be able to sell. I learned in corporate America that irrespective of how good your product is or your service is, it might be the best in the world, but if you cannot market it, right, you're not going to sell it. So marketing plays a major role too in how you handle your business. One, your product must be standard. It must meet the required standard. It must be the best that you can do. And then two, you must be able to market that product, because if you cannot market that product, there is no way you're going to sell it. You can have the best products lying down in your house and you cannot sell it. So that is how you overcome the competition from your adversaries in doing the same business. So you must have a good product or a good service, and you must be able to market that product or service so that way you can make sale of it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salumi. Okay, so the next question I had here was, how do you find the right business partner? What are some qualities to look for in a partner? So I see that Dr. Leke has already posted a response in the chat, but if anybody else had an answer to that question, feel free to chip in.
Yeah, I see that. I just something. Sorry. I just want to say something briefly concerning partnership. It's very critical to a business to pick the right partners. And I'll just give you a little story. I had sometime about several years ago, I was trying to link up a business, a guy who had an excellent idea. It was a tech company, and with an investor, because the investor had asked me. I said, "Oh yeah, the guy is good, solid business plan." I was putting them together, and they were ready to make the investment. We agreed on the plan. We agreed on the percentage of this, how much the investor is going to invest, about $1 million. This is how much it is. Everything was set up, and then we all traveled. We all traveled to kind of like to take over. I mean, to do the business, to consummate the business. So we traveled, and when we were overseas, we found out that the guy who was trying to do the business suddenly felt that his business had become a whole lot more than what we are all agreed on paper. So he said, I'm going to change from maybe like the investor was going to earn 50% of the deal. He said, no, I think maybe I can get more money. But I said, we have a deal. Everything is signed up. These guys have traveled. Everything is done. And you're going to take your business from what it is now, from a mom and pop to a bigger business. Guess what? At that table, I found out that the guy, he was unwilling. He wanted to change the rules right there because he suddenly found out. The bottom line is this. I called my investor and said, you know what? I'm sorry to have brought you all this trouble, but I don't think I want to do business with this guy because of integrity. Even though, you can't have it all the first business. I told him, I said, just do this business. You can start with that business. He said, no, I can get more money. So guess what? He thought we could wring the hand of the investor. The investor just pulled out he took out his money, and the business the guy went back to doing his business by himself. And unfortunately, he didn't rise up beyond So that's one of the things that integrity is very important in business. So the right partners, making sure that people that share your dream, otherwise they'll take you to a direction that you don't want to go. So little things, you have to work out for little things, that of course you're not going to get 100%, but if you can get majority of what you want in the person's integrity, what they say, and their commitment to the same goal, both of you must have the same ideals. Otherwise, there's going to be trouble coming in the future when the business grows.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for your thoughts on that. And I think for the sake of time, I have one more question in the chat that I'd like to post to all of you. And that question is entrepreneurship for everyone? Can we all be entrepreneurs? Anyone that feels like they have thoughts on that can chip in and answer.
That's a very good question to ask, actually. And I think it's all about one, your passion, and then two, how well you can take a risk and how well you can tolerate a risk. Some people can't take risk and they just want to get paid. They do their job, they get paid, and they're gone. Others are smart enough and they have the vision in their head and they know how to handle the risk, and at least they have some basic knowledge of what's required to get a business going. So they can take the risk. And some people are they're just a risk taker. They don't care. Even they don't even have the money, but they'll source the money and start the business. So first one, it all entails on how well you can take a risk. Two, your vision, right? Do you want to take your vision and just sell it to somebody else to do the business for you? And you just sit back and make your profit on the side? Or you want to go ahead, head on and handle it yourself? So it comes down to risk. Can you take a risk? I mean, if you can take a risk, the profit is always high. But people who cannot tolerate risk, they make a living. So is entrepreneurship for everybody? It's something one individual have to ask themselves. Do they have the time to get into it? Do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the resources to do it? And do they have the vision, right, to see it from the beginning to the end? Because it's not just starting a business. You want to see it grow. You want to see it rise up, and you want to see success written all over it at the end of the day. So it's not for everybody, So some have skills that you have technical skills, specific technical skills. They can sell that, they get the work done, and they're gone. They move on. And they can have their own company too. And they can always get contracts from other industries. At least it's still a business, but they have a specific kind of skill. But on a larger scale, when you talk of multinational companies that spans different areas of human endeavors, it starts from an idea. It might be one person, it might be two, and it might be three. So that way you can share the risk among among the partners. And that's where the question about partnership comes in handy. How do you know if your partner is the right partner to go into business with? So entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I won't say it's for everybody. It all depends on your vision, one, your passion for the business, two, and how well you can take a risk and how well you can tolerate a risk in seeing the business from start to finish and to a level whereby all you do now is just operational stuff where you just maintain the business once everything is set up. So it's not for everybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sarumi, for your answer. Did anyone else have any thoughts on the issue on the panel that they may want to express?
Okay, let me quickly just chip in something about that. The last question is entrepreneurship for everyone? The simple answer is not for everyone. Now, but the truth is this: just as Mr. Sarumi said, whether you are an employee or you are an employer, you are running your own business or you are assisting somebody to run their own business, all of us are running a risk. If you're an employee, you can get laid off, you can get fired, anything can happen. The company may collapse or may fold up or whatever. If you're an entrepreneur, anything could happen too. And I will use my own as an example. I've transited from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur, making good strides, and things do happen that you possibly lose everything or you lost some of it. And you come back again to become employees again, but you never lose your focus. Becoming an employee back again is basically to stabilize. You still go back to becoming employer or entrepreneur. And I will give an example. Pre-COVID, that was a business I won't take time, I was pursuing in Africa, in the country of Namibia, for example. We've invested so much money, so much energy that we are actually at the verge of finalizing the financing. We're talking about almost $2 billion US contract. COVID happened. The financials backed up because we are in the entertainment industry. We are in the International Convention Center, hotel, water parks, and all the rest. And they reappraise their stuff, say, you know what, this is not the time. We are not going to even have a look again until the first quarter of 2021. And what should we do? We have lost money. So we have to move on. We have to sit down, re-strategize. But are we supposed to be discouraged? Definitely yes. Are we supposed to give up? The answer is no, because we are still going back when things improve. So what I always, because I've had calls to to advise people when they want to go into business, when they seek for my advice. If you are couples, I always tell them, let one of you still maintain a paid employee. And one of you can then decide to do, well, you know what, let's risk some. Let's go into entrepreneurship. By the time you stabilize, business starts booming or things are going the right way, the employee may even leave the employment to come and join you. Both of you may not want to plunge into it just once. That's an advice. Some people will take the risk because they believe they have the skill, they have the product, they've done their work. And before you know it, they will go into entrepreneurship, and in a matter of little or no time, they will make a good success of it. But as Mr. Sarumi said, number one, your appetite for risk is very, very important. You must determine, am I the one who doesn't want to take any risk? If the answer is yes, don't go that route. Don't be encouraged or be puffed up by some speakers who will tell you stories that are not true. If anybody is telling you about how these guys, how they make their money, the like of Mike Zuckerberg, the likes of Bill Gates, that they drop out of college, the answer is yes, they dropped out. But they drop out for a purpose. And they have parents who assisted them greatly. They have people who practically held their hand and take them through some doors, who get them venture capitalists who are willing to help them out. But I won't deceive you, the success and the reward of entrepreneurship is really, really worth it. But you must be prepared to do what? To pay a price. There is a price to pay. Just like there is a price to pay for even regular employment too. If you're in regular employment for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, and you retire, you have paid a price of somebody monitoring your time. You have to do things according to their time. So God help me, all of us, always seek for advice, especially people who have done it and have been successful, so that when they advise you, that will assist you. As Mr. Wilson had already mentioned, that somebody was working with them, advised him, and everything that person told him came to pass. They was able to stay the course and ride this storm because he was also prepared that this thing may happen, but no matter what happened, I will still be focused. I will not let go, and I will not be discouraged until I achieve my goal. It's going to be a continuous discussion. So that's why I said I will encourage you to reach out to the presenters if you have additional questions through Views Lounge, so that we can all help each other in terms of assisting, by way of advising, by way of giving us resources that we can use. God helping all of us. Thank you.
Can I
Thank you very much, Mr. Camille.
Yes. Sorry, Shay. I wanted to add something real quickly because I know that we're straight for time. But I feel that from what Mr. Lamidi has said, concerning some of the things he said, now some of the options you have to fund a loan, which some of these other guys that he mentioned might have gotten the benefit of. Number one, you can go through a traditional way. If you want to start a business, for example, yes, the rewards are great, but also the risks are high, which is why the statistics I put out at the first, you can see how many people actually try. They said about maybe 50% of the businesses that start, they fail within the first 2 years. That's a statistic from the SBA. So people fail because they don't plan right. Now, one of the options that which you can fund your business, you have traditional loans like getting loans from the bank. You have personal loans that you can get using your own credit to get a personal loan. You have micro lenders, people that see what you do. Then you have people like the small business grants. You have self-funding. You have investors. You have crowdfunding. People can invest in your business. You have friends and family. Then you have something also called factoring, maybe like invoice. You have an invoice from the federal government and you don't have the money to cover it, and then you now go to a factoring company and they will factor it, they will charge you a fee. So those are some of the ways. Now, let me tell you, I was talking to an investor about a few days ago, because I'm always looking at how can you fund my people to get. And one of the things he said is, he said, you know what, an entrepreneur, one of the biggest problems as an entrepreneur may have is they hold on to the business as if it's a personal child, and unfortunately they don't want to let go. Now, understand that for you to be able to expand and become bigger, you may have to let go some controls, meaning some people have to pry into your business. Let me put it this way to you. If you were in the United States of America, if you had a neighborhood store that you go to every time and you buy your regular groceries from there, maybe just a little mom and pop store, the guy is always there on time, he sells you what you want, he's clean and everything, and you have the opportunity of being a banker. And then you walk into his store and say, oh, do you need any loans? Say, oh yeah, guess what? In your mind, you know this guy has always done some things, and then you want to give him a loan. So you now help him to prepare, make sure he has the books, he has everything. But on the other hand, if somebody just comes from nowhere and he says, oh, he has this grandiose plan, he has no experience, nothing, and he gives you, and he needs like $1 million from you as a banker, you're like, hey, wait a minute, I can't give this guy money. I can't verify something. I can't do this. So what I'm saying is, as a business, Mr. Kabila, giving you some things, you need to set up your business in a way that there's a record, a track. That's one of the ways to expand in the future. And I feel that as young people, once you get started, you have time on your hands. Your risk appetite has to be high, but it is worth it. Like he said, we go back in, come out. Sometimes you get hot, you go back in again. That's the life of the business person. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. All right, so with that, that concludes our Q&A section, and I hope that everybody that's tuned in today is able to get a lot of information on how to start our careers as future entrepreneurs, hopefully. And now I'm going to hand it over to my co-host to wrap us up.
Thank you, Shay. I really appreciate what you just did, taking over everything. Thank you. I don't know whether our guest speaker have final remarks for us. Is Mr. Salome still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, do you have anything to close it up in terms of advice as an entrepreneur?
Thank you, Views Lunch, for bringing me in today to share my own story. And I'm happy to be a part of this. And I hope the younger ones too, who must have learned one or two things about being an entrepreneur. It's a tough world out there, but like I always say, get the skills. Once you have the skills, at some point the money will come looking for you. So always have the skills. You don't have to be a technical person to have the skills. You could be a professional. You could be a business admin guy that can know how to set up a business. You could be a business owner like Dr. Leki Otunuga. But you must have the skills. You must know what the operation is all about, and you must have the vision, and you must be ready, right, to take some risk when you're an entrepreneur. So it's easy. It can be done. You know, don't be scared of getting out there and researching what you want to do and broaden your horizon in terms of the knowledge that you need to acquire to be an entrepreneur. And whatever product or services you're going to be selling to people, make sure you have a hang of it. Read a lot about it so that nobody can tell you you don't know what you're doing. At any point in time, you want to be sure that you know exactly what you're doing at any point in time. And God's grace, success will come our way. So to the younger ones, don't be afraid. Go out for it. And it's going to be okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that submission, that closing remark, Mr. Salome. Is Dr. Otunuga there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah, Dr. Otunuga, what's your final thoughts on this? As an entrepreneur, to people out there want to become an entrepreneur like you.
Okay, first of all, let me quickly make a comment on a question. One of the questions on the chat forum, and I read the question: is it a good idea to run your business jointly with your spouse or go it alone? Again, this brings us back to the points we were making earlier about your partner. We say a partner must share your vision, understand your mission, and be committed to the long goal of that business. Now, the question is, does your wife fit into all of this? If yes, then, partly you have your answer. Then this other part of that is this. What kind of relationship do you have with your spouse? Is your spouse someone who can tell you to do something different from what you had in mind? Is your spouse's opinion, does it matter to you? Do you value it? Or you are one of those who would rather listen to your pastor than listen to your spouse? So that second part of that is also very important. If you have a spouse who you are always at loggerheads with, you will both bring the business down. However, if you have a spouse who you believe has something to offer and whose opinion matters to you, then it's most likely that you will take the business to places. So that is my comment on that. So I will at this point express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to come here and speak to your viewers. It's been a very wonderful session. I learned so much today. And I pray that you will grow from grace to grace. When next you want us to come along, please be free to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that final remark, Dr. Otsunobu. Mr. Wilson. So what do you have to tell the upcoming business owner or entrepreneur? So
thank you very much. Just like Dr. Lekki just said, I am appreciative of the opportunity to come and talk to your audience. And I want to say you are doing a great job. My hope is you expand this and we spend more time to discuss these are pertinent issues that affect our community. I tend to always take a different look at things. Now, what I see giving back to our children, the young ones who are coming up. I have 4 children who are all in their 20s, and I see that for me, my hope is that they will start a business and become wealthy. Now, what does that do for us as a community? For us as a community, the more we have of the young entrepreneurs becoming the name brands that we see, the Googles, the Zooms, the TikToks, and everything, the more our community can rise up, the more we can have political power, the more we can be relevant in this country. Our children cannot go and do exactly what we've done. They should write better. They should write on what we have done. They should be way better than us. So we lay a path for them. They should rise up. They should be better than us. They should become the leaders of this business community. They should be people counted among the billionaires. So for me, I feel that our children should do a whole lot. And our job is to open the doors for them through stuff, forums like yours are doing. And my prayer is that some of them will pick it up, and of course, it's not for everybody, but some of them will pick up this thing and become really, really great at whatever they do. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that final remark. Mr. Camille.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. My closing remark will be very simple. Just as I mentioned earlier on, few things one should always try to avoid. First of all, let me tell you what I believe anybody thinking in that line of becoming an entrepreneur should take care of is number one, ensure that you separate your business from you. That's the reason why you need to register the business. Number two, pay yourself. It's always important to pay yourself. Don't just get burnt out without rewarding yourself so that you even know whether the business is making profit or making losses. If the business is not making enough profit, you can sit down, re-strategize, evaluate your books, and find out how you can reduce your expenses or increase your revenue as the case may be. There are people who can advise you about that one out there. Number three, always avoid getting your business into trouble. And one of the most critical trouble you can get into is the IRS trouble. And how do you do that? If you become extravagant, that you become to spend business money like your own personal money, you are not accountable and you're not keeping track of your resources, then you will likely enter into trouble. Number four, and finally, for everything you do, get wisdom. And what wisdom implies this: number one, you have passion. Number two, you have passion that you apply with your sense. You don't just have passion. without putting in place things that can help you. Always consult a lawyer when it has to do with legal stuff. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. If it has to do with finances, consult with your accountant or your financial consultant. If it has to do with anything technical, consult with people who are in that area, who have done it. They will either link you up with the right resources, or they will give you the best of advice, or they will represent you if there is need. So God helping us, while we encourage our youth to start thinking of, hey, what can I start to do on my own? While you still maintain your regular job, you can start doing something by the side, no matter how small. Whatever you have passion for, start doing it as a business. And before you know it, you start learning the ropes while you still maintain your regular job. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to being with you again if you need my services.
Of course, I will. Mrs. Kamia, before we go, there's a question there. Someone asking about what is percentage you can pay yourself. Can you quickly answer?
Oh yeah, if it's a new business, let's say your revenue is 20,000, you can afford to pay yourself 10,000. Pay yourself what is commensurate with what your revenue is. Don't forget, everything you are putting back into the business in terms of not taking them out, it's like we are plowing back what you are making. And that helps you. If you take all the money out and you have to go and borrow it from financial institutions, don't forget you pay a prime on it, you pay interest. So whatever you are paying yourself, make it reasonable that the business can sustain. And how do you do about it? Even if you say, okay, I want to pay myself what is equitable, what I believe I'm earning. If your payment is, let's say you say, okay, I pay myself $5,000 every month, it's fine. You can accrue, it's called accrue. You can pay yourself 5,000, but you don't allow the cash to leave the business. But in the business record, it shows that your earning for this month is 5,000, but the business only pay you 2,000. Wherein the business is owing you $3,000. You can be accruing that going on. So when the business now boom, or when the financial situation improves, you can then do what? You can then pay yourself back when the cash flow can sustain it. So you decide that, pay yourself what is reasonable, what makes sense, and what will make you to want to do more as a business person. And also when you are paying yourself, make sure you pay taxes. It is very, very important. It's different from the business taxes you have to pay. You pay your personal taxes and you pay your business taxes. That is why I always say, consult a professional to assist you so that you don't run into any difficulty. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. I hope that our participants to get it, understand what you just said, or maybe the questions well answered. So I would like to thank all of you for coming. Before I could get hold of these men, oh my God, they are very busy people. So that shows to me that being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing. They are always on the go. Test them to respond is a big deal. So I really thank you for your time, for even showing up and show up on time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. And also I would like to tell our audience that we have resources that I could share with you if you want to go into business, given to me by Mr. Wilson Adewale. He gave me a lot of resources if you want to go to business, because he said in his submission that money should be the least thing for you to think about. You shouldn't be talking about the money, that you need to get the why you want to go into the business first. Then you know your crowd, you know your client, you know the demographic where your good render the service as well. So if the money should be the least thing should be thinking about. If you need money and how to get the money, I have the resources. You get the why first. So thank you all for being here. So I will wrap up the discussion of today. And also I will encourage each one of us, if you can send me your email address on info@viewslounge, it's on the screen. I really appreciate it so that I can email some of the things, upcoming events to you as well. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sarumi. Thank you, Mr. Wexin. Thank you, Dr. Otunuga. I appreciate you, Sheyi. Thank you so much. So I will let you all go. Stay blessed and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye for now.